Hi guys, welcome back to Crime Time with Jess. It's been a minute, huh? A couple days or so. Been getting really tongue-tied lately, so I'm gonna hopefully not do that. Please don't mind me. Drinking my water, drinking my protein shake. I haven't had breakfast yet, which I've been trying to better my diet. Happy New Year's to you guys if I didn't say it in the last video. Get mentally prepared to go into the Watts case because, as my friend put it yesterday, it's just such a highly emotional case. You know, it's been how many years now? 7 years. So if you're like me, true crime enthusiast, you probably went down the whole Watts case road while it was happening, and you've probably revisited a couple of times like I have. And I haven't revisited in a while, right? But months ago, one of my friends who is not into true crime at all, didn't even know about the Watts case, that's how much she doesn't care about true crime, came across the Watts documentary on Netflix. And she was like, oh, you got to watch it. You've got to watch that. And I was like, I don't want to watch that. You know, I watched it all unfold in real time, and it's just such a terrible case. Like, I just didn't want to watch it. You know, I felt like, what is Netflix going to tell me about this case that I don't already know? So I didn't watch it. But the other day, I was bored flipping through Netflix, and I saw it. And I was like, you know what? Let me just go and watch it. So I did. And it just took me straight back to Watts Island, basically. And, you know, now that it's been almost 7 years, you can kind of look at it with a different set of eyes, I guess. Because on its face, just not true crime enthusiasts, just the general public, this case was so traumatic to a lot of people because on its face, of course, they looked like the perfect family. And people wonder, like, why? You know, why would you do such a thing? He had a good job. He had a beautiful wife. He had cute little girls, a beautiful, beautiful home. Immaculately kept home. Shannan was quite the housekeeper. I actually admire that about her. I wish my house was always as clean as hers seemed to be. But people just could not make sense of this. Chris is a little different than your typical family annihilator. And the reason I say that is because he has no background for it. You know, he's never been violent to anyone in his life. He's never had anything so much as a speeding ticket. Very quiet guy, unassuming, and just, you know, always seemed like the supportive husband, the great father. And he just kills them all. You know, he murders his 2 little girls, drops them in oil tanks, murders his pregnant wife. I don't want to get too graphic here. Again, I know how emotional this case is. But every time I think of coffin death, it triggers something in me. Like, I got chills on my leg right now. Because that's what happened with Shannan and Nico. That's going to get me upset. I wasn't expecting that. Sorry. But I don't know if you guys know, maybe you do, but there's a lot of channels solely dedicated to hating Shannan. I have seen people call the girls brats. I have seen people call Shannan a bitch. I have seen people basically outright say she deserved that. She deserved that. She was bossy. She was so bossy. Like, somehow that's a justification for murder. And I find that disgusting. But we're going to ignore those people for now. They can live in their hate if they want to. But when you look at it, because I was watching all the stuff again, going down the rabbit holes again, Chris is just such an empty vessel. He's an empty vessel of a person. And I was saying this yesterday on the phone with a friend. But every time I see him in any videos with Shannan, and she took many, you guys know that, he just always appeared to be playing a role. It's like he had no personality, no identity really of his own. So whatever situation he was in, if Shannan had the camera on, he needed to play happy dad, he was doing that. If he needed to play good husband, he was trying to do that. But you could just tell that it just wasn't real, And I think Shannan, everyone says, oh, she was so bossy and this and that. And, no wonder Chris snapped and killed her. Well, I don't think that had anything to do with it. Cindy Watts, his mother, Chris's mother, very dominant woman. There's nothing wrong with dominant women. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. There's nothing wrong with strong women. Nothing. And sometimes, a lot of the time, a weaker, more passive guy will be attracted to that. There's always a more dominant character in any relationship, even my own. I'm definitely the more extroverted person. And I think this is where I kind of relate to Shannan, is that I'm the more extroverted one. I am the one that will go and make friends out in the public everywhere. I'll talk to people on the sidewalk, I do YouTube. Whereas Tyler is a lot more quieter around people he doesn't know. Now, around people he knows, he's loud as hell, okay? But around people he doesn't know, he is definitely more introverted than I am. That's just the dynamics of our relationship. I like that about Tyler. I couldn't imagine if there were two of us, So I think Shannan recognized the dynamics of their relationship, and I think she was okay with that. And I think Chris also was okay with that. Again, his mother was a very domineering woman. That's what he was used to. His father was also very passive, like Chris, very agreeable, like Chris. Oh, you guys' comments. I want to say hi. Let me stop here. Hi, Grandma. Hi, Darth. Happy New Year's to you as well. I got the love and interest for true crime from my mother. So did I. Darth. Same. So Grandma is saying, we did talk about this yesterday. Yes, we did. So my opinion as to what happened with him. Well, I know that, Grandma. I would like everyone else to know your opinion about what happens. I don't know how people could say something like that about another woman and her children. Same. It's really disgusting. I would not recommend. Oh, and Jess. Hi, Jess. Hi. It's so good to see you. Happy New Year, love. But yes, Grandma, I would suggest not looking up those hate videos because there's lots of them. And there's multiple creators that literally their entire channels are dedicated to tearing Shannan apart. And I just don't know how you have that much hatred in your heart to do that, because I feel like people forget these are real people. They're not robots. They're not perfect. Shannan Watts wasn't perfect. I think she was as good as she thought she could be. And that's all that anyone could really do, but people want to nitpick her, and she was bossy and she was this and she was that and blah, 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 blah. She was a human being. She was flawed, just like me, just like you, just like every one of those people that are making bad comments about her. She was a flawed human being. She was not perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect victim. And I really wish the true crime community would get over that. There are victims that are going to have bad things in their past. We have all made mistakes. A lot of us have experienced infidelity or participated in it. That's why our marriage rates are at 50% in this country. You got a 50-50 shot of your marriage working out. So to pass judgment, Shannan had an affair prior to meeting Chris with her boss at work in North Carolina. And so I've seen people say this was her karma. No, there is no karma. There's no justification for murder. I don't care how someone was to you. If they're terrible to you, leave. You do not have to kill anyone. So there's just no justification for that. Okay. Sorry. I do have really bad allergies today. Well, this has been actually going on for weeks. I thought I was going to have to go get Benadryl, but my nose is not, I'm not sneezing my head off like I was this morning. But anyway, Jess said, I don't think she was perfect, but I don't think she was terrible. Right. I mean, she was a normal woman, you know? And so I couldn't imagine, I'm going to be honest. I couldn't imagine if something like this happened to me and my children, and then my entire life, my private texts, everything was on display for the world to be seen. Quite frankly, I think I would look a whole lot worse than Shannan. I do. Just because I'm flawed. I'm a flawed person. I make mistakes. To this day, I make mistakes. To this day, I do things that I regret, or that I'm like, that wasn't a good decision. You know, it happens. It's just life. So to be so judgmental of a murder victim and murdered children at that, I could not believe the lady that I saw. I actually screenshot it because I wanted to remember her handle. I don't really do that. I don't really pay attention a lot to people's handles and things like that. But when I see somebody being so egregiously, disgustingly evil, I will try to remember their handles. And this one lady, I screenshot her just to remember her. But she made a comment on one of these hate channel videos that Bella and Cece were nothing but brats that taunted Chris. What? You know, just unbelievable. You know, unbelievable. So Jess is saying, oh, Grandma, you coughed all night. You got no sleep. What are you still doing up, lady? Take some Benadryl or some cough medicine, NyQuil. NyQuil will put you right out. You'll sleep. You'll get a good night's sleep. I forget what their slogan is, but it's true. I do love me some NyQuil when I have cold. Jess is saying, and being bossy is okay, right? I'm kind of bossy. And the men I've been with work with it. I'm glad you're saying that, Jeff. Usually bossy people have less bossy partners. Exactly. You know, here's the thing with me, like just in my own household, right? If I don't do it, it will never get done, right? So if I just leave the kids and Tyler to kind of do whatever it is they're doing, they will make a giant mess. They don't clean up after They don't clean up after themselves. You know, I have to get up. I have to wrangle the family, start delegating. You clean up your room. You need to get this mess up. It's just the dynamics of our family. If an outsider came and stepped through my door and just watched me delegate to everyone what they needed to do while I'm also cleaning, I think they would call me bossy. I really do. But what they don't understand is if I didn't do this because I have laid back and not done it just to see what they would do, nothing gets done. And I feel like Shannan had that same issue, you know, same thing. If I was telling Grandma yesterday on the phone that I just wish that we could just see into a crystal ball and see what Chris Watts would be like with his children without Shannan in the picture, just to see what he does. You know, what kind of parent would he be? Would his house look like that? I don't think so. I feel like everything he did was at Shannan's direction, but she was trying to lead him the right way. You know, it's not like she was trying to lead him astray like Nicole Kessinger. Don't get me started on that lady. But he's like a person that, again, just so empty, needing direction, needing to know what he should do in any given situation because it's like he didn't know. You know, I think he kind of got the roll down of being the husband and the dad. His detachment from everything is so telling. and I know people have done all kinds of analysis on Chris because he's just so different from most other family annihilators. But I don't think it's that complicated, because I don't even think Chris Watts is that complicated. I really don't. I think he literally found a new piece of cat, we'll put it that way, and his family was just disposable to him. I think he appeared to be attached to them, but he wasn't. He wasn't. You can't be if you can so easily dispose of them. And he was just ready to move on to another life. But here's the thing that I was going to say earlier about the people that say, Shannan should have saw this coming. I'm sorry. I disagree. I don't think there was any indicator that Chris Watts was going to be what he was going to be. So I don't think that Shannan's mind went to, oh my God, he's going to kill us. I don't think so. But looking back, he did all the things. He distanced himself hugely to the point where he was not even answering her texts. He was ignoring her phone calls. When they did link back up in North Carolina, after weeks of being apart and weeks of him being with Nicole Kessinger, he kissed Shannan, and she said she had to actually kiss him. So all the signs of cheating were definitely there. No sex, no interest, him being very distant. Ladies, this is for you. Fellas, if you're listening, you want to chime in and agree with me, that's cool. And if not, you can do that too. But if your man gets himself all prettied up and then has no interest in you, start waving the red flags, because it's just a big telltale sign. I remember from my childhood, I shouldn't even put this out there, but it is what it is. I remember from my childhood, my dad getting all gussied up, had his cologne on, he was smelling all good, he was looking all good, and my stepmom was kind of like, where are you going? Where are you going right now? Got cologne on, it's a Wednesday night, like, where are you going? Oh, I'm just going to go out to the racetrack. I was a young girl. I was probably 8, I think, Aubrey's age. And I could see in my stepmom's face, who to this day, I love dearly. My father has passed. But, I could see it in her face that something was wrong. She knew that something was wrong. I didn't know what was wrong. I found out what was wrong later. But yes, my dad was gussing himself up and looking all good. And he wasn't doing what he would have normally been doing in their relationship. And he was seeing another person. So that's my earliest memory of seeing someone cheat. And I've been on both ends of cheating, if we're being honest. I've been cheated on, and I've also committed that act. And when you're on the side that you're the cheater, it is an awful feeling. I was 19 years old. It was my boyfriend, and I cheated on him with his best friend. And boy, that was so bad. I learned so many lessons in that. That was the first time in my life that I had ever felt pure guilt. I just never felt it like that before. And I couldn't identify. I remember sitting on my mom's, okay, let me just tell the story briefly. Actually, I was 18. We were 18, me and my boyfriend, when I was 18 years old. And we didn't drink, we didn't go out, we didn't party, we didn't do any of that stuff. We were very in love, and we were always together and all that. Well, I was at his house one night, and one of his friends called. It was weekend. And he said, hey, there's this party, why don't you come? Bring your girl. So my ex-boyfriend, asked me, like, you want to go to this party? And I didn't want to go. And I was like, no, we don't even drink. Like, I don't want to go. And he really wanted to go. And I was a little pissy. I had a mood. I was in a mood because I didn't really want to go. But we went, and we ended up getting plastered. And I mean plastered. And that's when it happened. And the craziest part is, even though we were 15 sheets to the wind, I still knew what I was doing. I didn't stop it. He didn't do anything against me. He didn't violate me in any way. I was a willing participant in this. After that, the morning comes. We're on our way home, and he's taking me back to my house. And I could feel nothing but the inside of me like crumbling. It just felt like I had committed like the worst thing ever. And he's normal. He's over there driving normal. And I'm just like, oh my God, like I could not believe that I had did that. And this was a person that I was madly in love with. I wasn't planning on leaving this person at all. Right? Long story short, he drops me off at home, and I walked in the house, and I just sat on the floor. I didn't sit on the couch. I didn't sit on the chair. And when I look back to that, I think because I was feeling like this big, that I just placed myself on the floor, And I remember pulling my knees up to my chest, and I just sat there, and the guilt was just so heavy. And it was like someone had punched me in the stomach. I committed this act. Okay. But the guilt is real. It is so real. I couldn't take it. I ended up going to his house, and I ended up telling him, I'm a terrible girlfriend. I don't deserve you. I remember saying all this stuff. And I told him what I did. And he immediately just sprung into action, and he was on the phone. He was calling the best friend, and I heard him yelling at him, and I just cried, and it took a lot to let go of that relationship. And the craziest part is that I was heartbroken. He was devastated. I was heartbroken. I wanted him to like hug me and comfort me, which is completely nuts. I mean, it just sounds crazy. Oh, you cheat on somebody, you want them to comfort you? Yes, it was really crazy, and I look back at that like, wow, that's really insane. But that was the person that I loved, and I committed this terrible thing against them. And I was so, there was so much pain. I was in so much pain. I just wanted to feel his love just one more time to like make it go away. It didn't go away. It was a life lesson that I've had to live with. Cheating leads nowhere good ever for anyone. I mean, maybe there's some rare cases where people cheat and get married and live happily ever after. I don't know. But typically it is just, it's a dead end, really bad road to go down. And you're going to hurt yourself, and you're going to hurt others. And it's just never worth it. Right. So, but I do remember, because when I think about Chris Watts and his cheating and how much he did not want to tell Shannan what he had done or was doing, I think about myself when my ex-boyfriend was questioning me. He wanted to know all the details, which was just really weird for me. I didn't want to tell him that. It, just painful to tell, but he wanted to know. And he was kind of yelling at me, and I started to gaslight him is really what, when I look back on it, is what I started doing, because, he was saying all this stuff, you did this and you did that, and I can't believe you did this, and I was feeling all this guilt. And then I lashed out at him, and I said, well, you do this and you've done this and you've done that. And so I started to gaslight him, even though I didn't know that word then. I didn't even realize what I was doing, but I know now, So I know how hard it is to look somebody in the face that you care about and have to tell them how badly you have violated them or hurt them. I don't understand how you go from that to wanting to kill people for it. You know, I never had the desire to kill my ex-boyfriend. I wanted him so badly to forgive me, but it was just, that was a pipe dream. I mean, I committed the ultimate acts pretty much. So, let me see. Let me get off my own life. I just, how when you look at a case, you kind of equate things to things that may have happened to you or stuff like that. And so just looking at the whole thing, he was really doing all the things that cheaters do, distancing themselves, not wanting to touch you, be intimate with you, anything like that. And Shannan definitely noticed it. I mean, she called him on it several times, telling him like, what is wrong? Telling her friends, he didn't even grab my ass. For any woman in a relationship, you probably know that men like to do that. And it was weird when I read that text from her, because again, I'll get a little personal with you guys, but if Tyler stopped doing that to me, I would it's annoying as hell, because I'll just be standing in the kitchen and all of a sudden there's just a pat on my backside. I'm trying to keep it PG for YouTube, but if he stopped doing that, I would definitely notice, So let's read some comments here, because I still haven't even got to where I wanted to go. Jess, I kind of feel like everything Chris did in life was directed by someone. Yes, me too, Jess, me too. Mom and dad, then his wife, NK. Just from what I've seen of him, there was almost lack of personality altogether. Yeah, that's what I mean by empty vessel. It's like someone was always having to direct him. And I think he was very comfortable in that role. Again, people have made such a big deal about Shannan being the more dominant partner, being bossy, this and that. And somehow that drove Chris crazy and he exploded and killed her. I don't believe that is true. I don't. Maybe some things, maybe sometimes she did get on his nerves. Who knows? I'm sure I get on Tyler's nerves, but I just don't think that was it. I think it had everything to do with him having no identity really of his own. It's like he said, well, I might not have known I had a bad marriage if I didn't meet Nicole. What? So you met this woman, and within a month and a half, you realized through her that you had a bad marriage? Someone that you had been with for 8 years, you just discard them for this new person. And the thing is, with people saying, oh, Shannan was, a bitch and all this kind of thing, bossy, yada, yada. Nicole Kessinger does not come off like a doormat at all. I think she was just the same. I think she would have been a very dominant, strong woman. The same thing. So Chris obviously had a type. That was his type. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just don't. I don't think that is a reason. It doesn't make sense that is why he killed her. He had been with her for 8 years. He knew exactly the way that she was. She said herself that, in the beginning of them dating, that she put him through the ringer, made him come to to the doctor with her. But, for the colon doctor. So she put him through a lot of stuff to just test him, and he stuck around. So, she was like, okay, keep her. All right. I'm getting lost in my own thoughts because there's so many thoughts on this case. Grandma, yes, Jess, too. Yes, this is what I was telling Jess yesterday. Mom was domineering. He had a passive dad. He felt powerless. Yeah, something that I thought was interesting was Shannan said that there was only one other time that he had acted distant that way in their marriage, and that was right after they got married. And I believe that the reason he acted that way was not because he was having an affair that time, but because his family did not come. And if we could just touch on Cindy Watts for a minute, you know, you don't have to like who your child decides to spend their life with. There's tons of parents that don't. Good thing that you don't have to spend your life with them. But for the Watts family to be so disrespectful of their son and who he chose to love and who he chose to marry, to not even show up. You know, what did Shannan do that was so bad that you didn't even show up to your only son's wedding? It's just so wrong, you know? But I think that deeply bothered Chris, not that his mother didn't show up, but that his father didn't come. I think him and his dad are the same type of person. You know, when he asked to see a parent, he didn't ask for his mom. In fact, he told his mom not to come. He just wanted to talk to his dad. And I think it's because, again, him and his dad understood each other on that extremely passive level of just go along, you know, don't have any real opinion, don't have any real personality. They seem to understand each other that way. Whereas Cindy Watts, who Chris described as always losing it on the phone, and the reason I say that, I just watched again Chris's, actually I'm making a video right now, but I was editing last night and God, I hate editing so freaking much. I hate it. But I was watching Chris's interrogation by the FBI in the Wisconsin prison in 2019, the last one that they did with him. And he was talking about his parents, how they will call him up and tell him, you know, that he needs to fight. And the FBI asked him, well, who's saying that? Like your mom or your dad? And he was like, my mom. And he was like, my mom's always losing it on the phone. And my dad like tells her to stop and calm down because she's just going to get herself upset and get me upset and blah, 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 blah. So, and I thought that was funny that Chris said that, because in Cindy Watts's interview prior to Chris being interviewed by the FBI in the Wisconsin prison, Cindy Watts was saying in her interview, you know, I just don't understand why he would plead guilty. Because if it were me, I would fight. I would fight to the end, you know? So clearly she has been saying that to him because he told the FBI guys that she was saying that, and she said it herself. Let's see, Jess. I've never been on neither side of cheating. You're very lucky. That's good. But I think in that situation, I'd be more mad at BFF than my partner. I can only imagine the guilt you felt. The guilt was crazy. He was equally mad at both of us. And it was so strange because I had no attraction to his best friend. None. I just didn't. And we both lost a person we loved. And so Raymond, sorry, I shouldn't have said his name. That was a long time ago, ex. But my ex had, you know, called him, cussed him out, and all of that. And so the best friend ended up calling me all upset and saying, you know, that he had lost someone, basically. We both lost this person. And we ended up, the three of us, actually, crazily enough, we ended up driving to the beach, sitting on the beach, and talking about what happened. And he chewed us both out. He told us about ourselves, and I just had to sit there and take it. There was no defense to it, to what I did or what he did. And we actually got back together. Huge mistake. Huge mistake. He never trusted me again. And I don't blame him, but he didn't. And the relationship ended badly. I mean, I hoped and prayed and prayed and prayed that it wouldn't, and that we could rekindle what we had and all those types of things. And it just was never meant to be. So it is what it is. But I did take away a huge life lesson about cheating from that. Huge, huge life lesson. So grandma is saying he has no backbone on his own, though. Yeah, literally none. Literally none. And so again, I think he just, in Nicole Kessinger, it's almost like he found just a new Shannan, a new, shinier, younger version. I'm not going to say prettier, because just in my opinion, I personally think that Shannan was a lot prettier than Nicole Kessinger. Nicole Kessinger had a nice body. We've all seen the pictures, okay? And that's what Chris obviously was attracted to. So again, it's so egregious and disgusting that someone would literally kill their entire family, children included, for a piece of the vajayjay that he deemed attractive. And that's really, I don't think that it was really anything more than that, which speaks a lot to Chris Watts. You know, when they were asking him in jail if there was anything that he missed from the outside, he said, oh yeah, I miss Shannan's cooking. What? Do you miss your kids? Do you miss like hugging your wife, loving her your whole entire life that you had? I don't think he does. I feel like Chris just was like almost robotic, just going through life. And I think it was the women in his life, mainly Shannan, that made him look normal, even though he really wasn't. I remember in one of Shannan's texts, her saying that Chris was a bad friend, that he just didn't, he wasn't the type of friend that called people back or interact with them or anything, whereas Shannan had friends and interacted with people, very social. Chris was not. And so not a good friend, very closed off person, very introverted person, and that's the thing. I saw an introverted person actually comment and say, I don't know why everyone keeps saying that, Chris was mad that Shannan was extroverted, because as an introvert, we don't want to be like that. We don't want to be the center of attention. We don't want to be in the spotlight. Well, we're okay to let other people be that way. And I think that Chris was, again, I think he was okay with it. I don't think that he saw a problem with that, especially when that was the model that he saw growing up, a more dominant mother, a more passive father. That had to be very normal for him. I don't think it was how everyone is taking it, that, oh, he killed her, he snapped, he was so tired of her being so bossy. No, I don't think so. No, I think he was out with the old and in with the new. I think that it's literally that simple. And I think the reason that people didn't see the warning signs with Chris is because, again, he was so quiet. If people don't talk, you really don't know about them. You could just only speculate about them. So I think that, Chris appeared normal because he had a normal wife and he had a family, and he was very quiet. So he appeared normal. Clearly, he was not at all. Grandma's saying, wonder what kind of kid he was. Well, if we're to believe Cindy Watts, she said he was almost the perfect child. He never got in trouble. He was always good. And here's the thing, and I do find interesting. Sorry, I have not ate breakfast. I've got to eat something, so might as well be a little pineapple or something. Now I'm thinking of John Bonet case. Great. I'm a true crime person, eating pineapple, John Bonet. Crazy. But, I thought it was interesting that at 18, Chris Watts moved out of his house. He moved out of his parents' house. He never relived with them again. He never went back home to them or anything like that. He had his own apartment. He had a good job. He really didn't get in trouble as a kid. He played sports. There's not a lot to tell. He himself, the FBI asked him in that interview, 2019, if there was anything in his childhood that he could think of where he felt rage the way he described feeling rage while he was murdering his daughter, Bella. And he said no. He said in 3rd grade, he had gotten into a fight with another kid and that they were fighting and he ripped his shirt. And he said right afterwards, he thought to himself, why did I do that? And he said he was crying. And the FBI guy said, Chris, obviously you care a lot about people. Sorry. Okay, I don't know what that was. Okay. I need to turn the volume down. That's going to distract me again. Okay. Grandma's saying, like a toddler, was he bonded to his mama or was he aloof? I don't know. I've seen a lot of people call him a mama's boy, and I don't believe he was. I think he was a daddy's boy. I think people get that confused. Chris Watts was very bonded, I think, mentally with his father because his father understood him and he understood his dad. I don't think he was a mama's boy. In fact, when Sandy Ruzek, Shannan's mom, was addressing Chris in court, and she said to him, we saw you as a son and all of these things. Chris visibly got upset. His knee started bouncing 100 miles an hour. He got choked up. You could see he was about to cry. But when his own mother got up after her and started speaking, there was a noticeable change in him. And if you watch that, you watch closely, because it's almost like he's like, oh my God, this woman's up here talking again. Shut up. Like, that's what I felt when I looked at his face. And the last thing his mom wanted to yell out in court, which I thought was really ridiculous, was, we forgive you, son. He had no emotion. He didn't cry. He didn't get emotional. He didn't even really seem to be moved by that in any sort of way. So yeah, I don't think he's a mama's boy. I truly don't. I think his mom is the exact opposite of him. Again, domineering and loud, hysterical almost, where he describes her to the FBI as, she's always going off on the phone. I think she annoys him, honestly. Now she sees him. I think she sees him as mama's little baby. Oh, we forgive you, son, and da-da-da. We forgive you for killing our grandkids. Listen, I'm happy that I don't have a child in the position that Chris Watts is in, okay? But if I did, do I think the love for my child would be gone? To be honest, no. But would I be in favor of them serving time for that type of crime? Absolutely. Would I write them and check in on them? Probably. But Cindy Watts just puts the onus on to Shannan. She puts the onus onto her that, if Chris had never met her, never married her, he wouldn't be in jail right now. He wouldn't be a murderer. Listen, lady, he is a murderer. He is in jail. And he chose that lady to marry. So, Cindy Watts just really, she grinds my gears. I got to be honest. Let's see. Justice saying, I think Chris saw financial freedom with Nicole Kessinger. I think there was a lot financial burden and he felt overwhelmed. I also think he's an easily persuaded person. I don't get the kids though. Well, because I think at the end he had detached so much that I think he saw Shannan and the kids as just one whole package that needed to go. They needed to go. He was actively trying to drug Shannan to make her abort. So he was trying everything to make these people go away. And it is hard to wrap your head around. But for a very detached person like Chris Watts, it's not. You know, when he was done, he was just done. He was ready to be with another person. The financial burdens probably did cause some stress. I mean, who is not stressed when they have financial problems? But I still just don't think that was the reason why. They had filed divorce or bankruptcy prior, before right before Bella was born, or Celeste, one of them. So I don't know. I don't think that was the problem. I think Chris just found a new leader, and that was Nicole Kessinger, and he was ready to go right along with that. Screw this family I made. They're old. Don't want to do that anymore. I want to play this role now. I like her. I like being around her. I want to, let's see. Hi, Dan. How are you? Dan is saying, hey, all. I was wondering if any part of YouTube was still covering Chris Watts and stumbled upon your stream and enjoying your take on it all. Oh, well, thank you. I've never talked about the Watts case on my channel. I think I said that earlier. But yeah, I think there are still people that come back and revisit the Watts case and make some new videos on it. I am trying to edit a video as we speak, like I said, but me and editing are never friends. So Grandma says, I believe he is disassociative. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think that Chris Watts ever lived in the moment of anything. It didn't seem like that. And then you have Nicole Kessinger, which, if we really want to get started on that lady, what she did was so wrong. And this story is full of lessons, just tons of lessons to be learned, honestly. What could possibly happen when you have an affair with a married man? That could happen. I don't know what involvement Nicole Kessinger had. Okay. None of us truly do, with all the speculation. But my speculation is that I believe that she helped in some way, shape, or form. I don't necessarily believe that she partook in the actual murders, but I don't know why. I just believe that she helped with the cleanup, so to speak. And those are pretty terrible words to say to describe that, but I really do think she helped clean up some stuff. Everything about her interrogation video is just not normal. Her deleting everything. Why? When you think to the Lacey Peterson case, Amber Fry didn't do that. Well, I don't think we had cell phones like that back then, but, she went to the police and she was honest. She really didn't know that Scott Peterson was lying to her and all this stuff. She was honest. She had nothing to hide. Nicole Kessinger is a completely different ballgame. What makes me believe that she helped in some way with the cleanup part of it is her phone pinging near the Watts house on that morning. It had never pinged there before or after. So is that a coincidence? I don't believe so. I don't believe that's a coincidence at all. And then Nicole Kessinger doesn't show up for work until around 2 p.m. Why? She has no alibi. that we are aware of. None. What were you doing? What were you doing? Why did you come into work this one day? And they said that she wasn't really one to be late or miss work or anything. So on the morning that this family is killed, you just happen to be very, very late to work. Your phone just happens to ping near their house. I don't believe in coincidences, not when it comes to stuff like this. So I do believe that she was involved in some way. And something that I do find weird is that Chris has said that there are things about Nicole that he will take to his grave. I'm going to have to do an intermission real quick, you guys. I'm feeling myself about to sneeze. So let me go grab, let me just go grab a tissue. I'm sorry. And yes, I have my Grinch pajama pants, Christmas pants on. Don't judge me, okay? I am home alone. There's so much snow outside. I got my Grinch Christmas pants on. Sorry. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. Let's see what Dan's saying. Jess, I love the lives, Jess. It wouldn't be the same if you made videos. Well, I know. Dan is saying, could he have always been a covert narcissist whose most evil side was triggered, emboldened by the affair? Then he rode that wave of delusion right to the end. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, for sure. And I've seen people call him a covert narcissist, and I know it's a very overused term at this point, but I do think that he really kind of fits that. He really does fit that. And I do think the affair triggered him majorly. Again, like he said, I probably wouldn't have known my marriage was bad if I didn't meet Nicole. Really. So it took meeting another woman to realize how bad your marriage was. I don't think your marriage was that bad. I think they had money problems. I think they spent beyond their means and stuff, which a lot of people do it. It doesn't make Shannan Watts the devil, guys. Okay. A lot of people do live beyond their means, unfortunately. I have been guilty of overspending at times. It happens, Let's see. Jess is saying, I agree, Dan. It could go so many ways. NK is suspicious to me. The way they stopped all investigating when he confessed. There's just a lot to this case. There really is, Jess. There really is. Like, if we went from top to bottom, we would really be here for hours. We would truly be here for hours. And maybe we can just stay on Watts Island for the next week and just go over all of it. I would love to have, if you guys want to come up on the panel and talk about it with me and chit chat with me about it, your own thoughts or, what you think of everything. I would love that. Like I always say, it takes a lot to sit here and talk to a camera for an hour. Nobody's talking back to you except for through text. So yeah, I've got to keep my thoughts together of what, I want to talk about. But there's just so many avenues we can go into everything. Nicole Kassinger is always going to be a huge one. And, there's people that still want to see her fully investigated to this day. I happen to be one of them. I'm sure you guys do as well. In 2019, when Chris Watts talked with the FBI in the jail, they really pressed him a little bit about Nicole Kassinger. and he just denies that she had anything to do with it. And I do not believe him. I don't even believe his version of events. When he was describing to the male FBI agent how he strangled Shannan, it just didn't really make any sense. He said that 30 minutes after she got home, so at 2:30 in the morning, that she had kind of reached over and touched him. He said his back or his legs or something, but it was an indication that she wanted to have some love time. And so he said that they did. I have a lot of thoughts about that as well, because there's people that don't believe that that happens. I believe that it did happen. And the reason that I believe that it happened is because for weeks, Shannan was, crying to her friends and talking a lot about the lack of sex or the lack of want for sex from Chris. So I think that, and he had rejected her in North Carolina, by the way. She had tried to come on to him and he outrightly rejected her. So I think her coming home from this business trip, she tried again, touched him, and he actually wanted to do it. And I think she was happy to do it. There was just no real way for Shannan Watts to even think that her husband was going to kill her. She was afraid of her marriage falling apart, not of being murdered. So I think for her, them having sex was, a sign to her that, oh, this is good. Okay, this is going to get better. But again, in hindsight, when we look back on this case, Chris showing every single sign of a cheater. Shannan said herself, Chris wouldn't cheat. He has no game. And a lot of people took that as her belittling him. I don't think she was belittling him. I think she was just being honest. I don't think he had any game because Nicole Kessinger stalked that family. That is my opinion, that she stalked the hell out of them. She looked up Shannan Watts an entire year before meeting Chris. She got her dad to get her a job where Chris worked. She was definitely watching this family. And let me just, on a side note here, say that me revisiting Watts Island, I have started to rethink about the things that I post on social media because my significant other and I, 11 years, we've been together. And I, in the past, would post all kinds of good things. I still do. I still post on Facebook, but I would, kind of say like good things about Tyler and stuff like that. I did not realize when we broke up, one of those people that was supposed to be like a family friend kind of jumped right on top of Tyler. Okay. She wanted my life. Literally. She saw that Tyler was a good provider. She saw that, he loves his child and my children. And she wanted that. And so, watching the documentary again and going down the rabbit hole, I just started thinking to myself, I'm not going to advertise my significant other. I mean, I will praise him all day in real life, but I really need to watch, putting that online so much, because you just never know who's watching or who could want to have what you have. And I think that's exactly what Nicole Kessinger wanted. I think she wanted Shannan's life. And Chris took it for her, which is crazy. So Dan is saying, at what point do you think Chris Watts will be honest about what he did? I don't know, Dan. I was thinking about that last night, actually. It's a good question. I feel he is still scared of what his parents will think of him. I feel what really went on was a lot worse. I do as well. I think what happened was much worse than he is describing it. Oh, because what he was saying, I kind of went off a little tangent there, but what he told the FBI, which makes no sense to me, but he told them, they had sex about a half hour after she got home. And then he said that Shannan was asleep. And he said he got into bed and nudged her. And he said when he nudged her, she rolled onto her back. And he said he just leaped on top of her. And he was on top of her. And the FBI agent's like, well, that doesn't really make sense. Are you sure that that's what happened? And he's like, yeah. And he said that they talked for 15 to 20 minutes with him on top of her. This was a woman that was 4 or 5 months pregnant. We don't want anyone sitting over top of us like that for 15, 20 minutes, laying on our back. That is not a comfortable position, So the FBI agent kept saying that, well, that doesn't, that's a long time to talk. And, are you sure that's true? Are you sure it's true? And he kept saying yes. And he said something. He said, I think she thought that we were going to do it again. I think she thought we were going to have sex again. So just picture that. If he really did get on top of her, and, I'm picturing him getting on top of her, maybe being a little playful, holding her arms down or something, and, kissing her or on her face or something. Maybe he did lull her into thinking, oh, we're about to make love again. And instead, he kills her. He murders her. What always gets me is him saying that she did not fight back. And there's no real deep scratches on him. I know that Oliver wants to be, he's obsessed with a laptop. I'm telling you, listen, he's had a rough week because we got a new cat named Frosty, and he absolutely hates Frosty with a passion. So, but you want to say hi, Oliver? Hi. And he needs to sit over here with Clark. Clark's laid out. You guys can't see our lap, but he is laying right next to me, sleeping. So if Frosty makes his way out here, I'll show you guys. But yeah, here's Oliver again. I don't know if he's really afraid of what his parents will think. I'm not really sure. Because again, I get this feeling from him that he doesn't love his mom. I think he loves his dad, but not his mother. I don't know why. I just don't get that feeling from him at all. Even though he did get very upset about his coworkers finding out what he did. He cried. He cried about his coworkers finding out what he did. So to say that Image was nothing to Chris, well, that would be a lie. Because it obviously mattered to him in some way, shape, or form that his coworkers were going to know that he's a murderer and a bad guy. And so much so, it bothered him so much that he cried about that thought of knowing that they were going to know. So maybe he would care what his parents think, but I don't know. He's just a liar. I mean, he lied about so much. I'm to the point where I don't believe any version that he has told thus far. And I truly don't know when. Maybe when his parents pass, maybe when he gets old, maybe he will come out and really tell the truth. But for him to even be protecting Nicole Kessinger and taking things to the grave that happened between the two of them, I really don't see why he would not hide what he himself did to his own children. I don't ever really look for him to tell the truth, to be honest. Sadly, I hope he does. But even if he did tell the truth, he's lied so many times. I wonder if we would believe him, So Jess is saying, and this is why I think there was so much more to keep investigating. It's like Ellie didn't care that there was involved. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's like as soon as Chris, pleaded guilty, they were just done. He did it over. And I'm not really sure why Frederick Police did that. Doesn't really make a lot of sense because there was a lot to look into in Nicole. I feel like Nicole got away with murder. Again, it's my belief that she was involved in some helping of it. Um, Even the cleanup. Yeah, you're an accessory to murder. That's a serious charge. So I did see someone say, because everyone has said, Nicole Kessinger changed her name and all this kind of stuff. Apparently, she has an Instagram. Somebody has found it. They've got into it because it was private. And they found pictures of Nicole, and she's friends with her sister through that account. It is her account. She has not changed her name. Her name is the same that it was. And she had a lot of like hiking pictures, camping pictures, but basically just out in the world living her best life, while the family that she targeted is completely, utterly destroyed. Almost all of them are dead, and Chris is a walking dead man. So, it's very unnerving that this woman is just living her best life while the rest of the world is still to this day mourning this family. And when I say this family, I mean Shannan and the girls. I am not mourning Chris whatsoever. So, Dan, I really appreciate you being here, and I really appreciate your comments. True. More concerned about what people would think of him than anything else in that moment. Yeah. Yes, and he's never been honest. He has never been honest. He lied to Shannan the entire time. I mean, even she was giving him outs. She asked him how many times, is there someone else? There's got to be someone else. You're not sleeping with me. You're ignoring me. You're distant. There has to be someone else. And to think that I turned my volume down. Hang on, guys. I'm going to take this call just for a second. Sorry if you feel like that's rude. It's my significant other. My apologies. Okay. So this is so crazy. I just want to tell you guys, there's probably about 10 inches of snow outside right now. And Tyler's about to climb a 350-foot wind turbine tower at work. With this, it's snowing. It's coming down like crazy. And he's about to climb this tower. I feel so bad for him right now. I know it's freezing outside. I mean, he does wear layers. Now I'm going to be thinking about that. I really don't like him climbing in this kind of weather, or, it gets icy. He is harnessed in, and there's all kinds of safety measures and things, but it's just a little nerve-wracking to me. So now that's going to be on my mind. But okay, so Jess is saying, I've been down so many rabbit holes on this case, lots of conspiracy theories, but there's just so much unknown and uninvestigated. Yeah, there really is. I think I was like everyone else in the beginning. I just want to know why. And when all the details came out about their financial stuff and Kessinger and just all of those things, I had different thoughts in 2018 than I have now. Back then, I was thinking, something had to happen for this guy to snap, because he's just such a normal person, But now I have a totally different perspective on that. So, again, I don't think Chris Watts was ever your normal guy at all. What goes on inside of his head is anyone's guess. But I think that I lost my train of thought. I just, it's so weird to me because I've told you guys a thousand times. I was in jail for 6 days over a speeding ticket, right? So I know what it's like. I had a little taste of that world. Absolutely awful place to be. Awful, awful. But he just seems to go along like it's all fine. When the FBI guy was asking him, "Are you on any medication here at the Wisconsin prison?" And he said, "No." And they said, "You didn't go to see the doctor?" And he was like, "No, I don't feel like I need it," which is so strange. And let me tell you why that's so strange. Because people doing bids, which is an extended period of time in jail, that's what they call it, a bid. When people are doing bids in jail, they want to get to that doctor so bad. They want all the crap that they could take to get them high to, just escape their actual reality. It's a thing to get to the doctor, to get to the nurse and get on some type of tranquilizer, some type of mood, something. People really want that. And so for Chris Watts, I think they would probably definitely give him something. But for him not to even ask, and he said he was on like a little pod with 11 other guys, 11, 12 other guys. And he said that they were all like on medication, which doesn't surprise me. That's normal. Him just, "Oh no, I don't need anything." So what do you do in prison, Chris? You just sit there and, his lack of wanting to even escape through medication or anything like that. It's just so strange. Always agreeable, empty vessel, Chris. Until he again saw the shiny newer version of the car and wanted to drive that one and wanted to get rid of the old one. And the old car was Shannan. Yeah, he's not he's not an addictive type at all. No drug, no alcohol abuse. None in his past. But he's just a very unique criminal. He truly is, because of his background. And I think that's why, even the FBI very interested in him as a person, because usually you see different patterns with family annihilators. They were very abusive prior to killing the family, or, stuff like that. Another one that we could look at that, is kind of like Chris Watts in the way that he had no past anything was John List. I don't know if you guys remember who he was. John List was very religious. His family was very religious, and he killed them all. Just randomly killed them all, lined them all up nicely, and he left and went and started a new life. And he was on the run for a while, like years. I don't remember exactly how many years, but Unsolved Mysteries put him on the TV, and his neighbor recognized him and called him in, and that's how he was caught. But he was another one. No addictive personality, no abuse in the history, nothing. It's just so strange how some people can view their supposed loved ones as just things to throw away, or things to just get rid of, things to kill off, and they just move on like it's okay. I don't know what that is, because I'm not a doctor. I don't know if that's psychopathy. I don't know if that's a psychopathy. I don't know if that's a sociopath. I'm sure I think Chris was sadistic. I do think that. I think he was sadistic. And the reason that I think he's sadistic is because he sent that picture on August 9th, just days before he murdered her. He sent Shannan that picture of the baby doll with the sheet over top of it. And it's almost like a warning, or almost sadistic in the way of, like, I'm almost like taunting you about what I'm going to do to you. You don't even know it. And there was something that he said in that FBI 2019 interview. He said that he had lied to Bella and Cece's teacher. The teacher asked him, "Oh, what did you guys do this summer?" And he said, "We went to China." So then he said the teacher asked him, I guess when he came into the school, "Well, how was your trip to China?" And he was like, "Oh, and he told the FBI guys, he was like, she believed it. So he just randomly lied for no reason, and was kind of pleased that he got away with that she believed it. Wow. So there was a little sadism in Chris, I think. And if we really want to go down a rabbit hole, guys, we can start talking about Nicole Kessinger and the sex magic, or we can leave that for the next live stream because I have a lot of thoughts on that. Do you guys want to get into that or no? If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sure you do. But Nicole Kessinger had a spiritual advisor. She just happened to call right when Chris was killing, his family, or right after. But she was said to be practicing dibbling and dabbling and sex magic and things like that. Regardless of what you think, if you are a religious person, which I am, but regardless of what you think, in my past, I have dabbled in witchcraft, and I had to repent for that, but that was my own journey. But I will tell you now that crap is real. Okay. Whether you want to believe it or not, it doesn't really matter. But what people always have to remember, there's nothing more powerful than God. Okay. So if somebody's trying to hex you or say they're going to hex you, don't take that crap lightly. Just don't. Pray. That's what you should do. But I don't want to get all into religion. With the sex magic stuff, I don't know if you guys know who Michael Knowles is. He's a conservative guy. He works for the Daily Wire. He's a YouTuber. He does a lot of political commentary, typically is what he does. But he shocked me because he did this show and he had an ex-witch on. And I was like, what the heck is Michael Knowles doing with an ex-witch on a show? This is not what his channel's about. But I found what she had to say extremely informative. And reading his comment section, which is full of very conservative, religious people, for them to take it in, I was very glad that he did that stream. Because I know a lot of people dismiss stuff like that. You would be surprised. I mean, you would be surprised when it comes to that kind of thing. And I was telling Grandma yesterday how selfish, witchcraft is. Because when you perform spells or someone performs a spell, they're not going God's way. They're not going down God's path. They're doing spells because they want what they want right then, right now. I want it to happen this way. I want my own path of what I want to do. And that's just not, and dog alert here. So this is Clarky. This is Clarky. He's a good boy. He's getting better because when we first got him, he was a rescue. He has Happy Tail, and they were going to euthanize him, and I was not going to have that. So he's a good boy. He was getting in the trash a lot when we first got him, but he's been good. He's been an angel. And he's so nice to the cats. They're so mean to him. Well, Oliver is, even though Oliver's getting nicer, but he's a good boy. So, all right, maybe we'll do a different live stream with all of that sex magic crap that she was doing. Because there's a couple things that, Chris Watts said about feeling out of his body, and which sounds disassociative, but like something came over him and he just couldn't stop, you know, he felt like something else was like pushing him. I don't know. I mean, we could go down the metaphysical world rabbit hole with that and with Nicole's sex magic crap and what that could potentially do to a person. We could definitely do that. Oh my God. All right, guys. I guess you guys aren't aware of the sex magic stuff. Nobody's saying anything. So I don't know if it's to stop the chat with that or what. But yeah, if you guys didn't know about that, I'd be very surprised. Especially Grandma, Jess, and Dan. I'd be very surprised if you guys had not heard of her doing that and participating in that kind of stuff. And it would be really interesting if we had somebody that absolutely confirmed, even though there's been a lot of little confirmations of it, but no clear, she was definitely into this, you know, and a lot of people that are into that are quiet about it. They don't tell the rest of the world because they fear judgment, you know. So when I started reading tarot cards, I had no idea. I was open about it. I was just like, yeah, I'm reading tarot cards now. Woo, you know. I didn't realize that there were so many people that I knew personally that, and I had no idea that they were into that kind of stuff or into witchcraft or anything. They started coming out of the woodwork, you know, and inboxing me like, hey, I go here and I do this and I'm in a coven. And I'm like, what? I had no idea you work at the bank. What do you mean? You know? So there's a lot more people involved, but they, you know, with people's jobs, like I said, the girl, one of the girls she literally works at a bank in the vault at that, does witchcraft. But because of people's jobs and things like that, they don't want to be judged by others for practicing witchcraft. So they kind of stay in the shadows. But I really wish I had someone other than myself come up and talk about sex magic in particular, and what that can do, what the potentials are, because it's pretty bad. So Grandma is saying, I'm not wanting to stay for that today. I'm not feeling well, but I listen to it another time. Okay, Grandma. Yeah, I mean, we are an hour and a half into this live stream. So Dana's saying, thinks she was a wannabe Wiccan girl. Yeah, I don't think she was full blown in, but I think she was like a dibbler dabbler, you know, like she knew just enough to do some like type of little crap. But I'm with Grandma. I think that's going to be a whole different live stream. And I'm going to try to do some more research about sex magic, even though I know about it, but I'm not finding the words to put it into words. So I'm going to look more into that. And then our next live stream, we can talk about that. So thank you guys for being here. Dan, I really appreciate you popping in and giving your opinion and being active in chat. Jess, as always, it's a pleasure. Grandma, love you to death. Thank you for showing up. And I will see you guys later. Bye for now.